Quick Tech Talk with Michael Anderson and Daniel Sloan.
Hey folks, welcome to the Quick Tech Talk. We're joined today by my co-host Daniel Sloan. And today we're talking about something that's been popping up in the news. We're talking about TikTok and specifically how blockchain can be used to mitigate the data privacy issues going on with TikTok. And for those who might be listening who are not familiar with TikTok, TikTok is a social media platform with over 2 billion users. It's the most popular social media platform among Generation Z. And there's been a lot of talk around privacy issues. So that's what we'll be digging into today. Daniel, thanks for joining us as always.
Oh yeah, it's great to be here. This is with so much buzz around this, it's exciting to kind of talk about it and really dig into kind of what the issues were and kind of delve into what the solutions could be. How most of the time when these kind of things happen, there was a way to mitigate and cause it, to make it to where it didn't happen. So
absolutely. I think the top of that conversation is, why is the US government considering blocking TikTok in the US?
Well, one reason that we won't dig into too much is that they feel like they're censoring news, right? So, they got these messages that, internal messages like anything around Tiananmen Square or this and that, block it, don't do it. And then some British agency tried to do a search on there to find out, news that was happening in China. Like, we didn't see anything. So they were basically blaming them on censorship. But I think the one thing that is probably more important to the US government is anytime a foreign government is collecting data on your citizens and potentially using that data for nefarious reasons, that's why they're calling it a national emergency, right? And national security concern. They actually claim to have proof that TikTok did send information on users of TikTok back to the government. And of course, they're denying it. And right. So we're in a little bit of a pissing match here of, he said, she said, and that's the issue, right? The government is saying on good authority, hey, I have proof that you did it. And they're like, no, you don't. So that's kind of why it's escalated so much is, they seem to have proof to these nefarious acts and they're basically denying it.
Yeah. So, and what are some of the ways that a country like China could be using TikTok to get data on and influence users of another country like America?
Well, you mentioned Generation Z, right? So, yes, that's primarily the people that use that, but it's interesting the number of high-powered and influential people that use social media today. And I think our president is probably a great example, right? Mm-hmm. Whoever would have imagined we live in a world to where, the president is giving his briefings over a Twitter feed, right? And he's not the only powerful and influential person in the United States that uses and prolific in social media. So if you're a foreign government that can has a platform and you've got a cabinet member or some very high power lawyer or somebody that's in a very influential position that has power, and you can get access to not only who they are, what their information is, and that personal data that could be used to crack other systems to try to break in, but you're getting and analyzing all of their posts and everything they're doing. So where they're eating, what they're doing, what they're into, and that can all be crunched with algorithms and AI to do predictive, like this person is prone to this, and hey, this guy really likes this, and that's dangerous because now they're targeting U.S. citizens and potentially could exploit that data to try to blackmail them or do something to further their cause.
Yeah, that's a bit concerning when you put it that way. So what are the ways we could, leverage technology to prevent this unauthorized use of data by foreign governments?
Well, I think when I look at TikTok, right? I mean, there's a certain amount of user data and information that could be protected through using blockchain technology. IBM has an initiative right now going on, and they have a partnership with SecureKey, and they're doing decentralized identity, right? So the thought process around that is that if TikTok was to use this secure decentralized identity, they actually wouldn't receive your information, Michael. They would just receive hash data that said, hey, here's their information. You can trust it because we verified it. I've validated all the data. And then if you're on the platform, TikTok platform, and you want to provide that data to somebody else, they have to actually come back to you and say, hey, Michael, we need your permission. We're getting a request for your information because your information is essentially locked. So without getting into too much technical detail, essentially you're controlling your identity, your information, and they just don't have it sitting in a database somewhere to where, basically someone cracks in and takes it and gets all that information and does what they want with it.
Yeah. What comes to mind most recently, you mentioned high profile people who use social media like the president. And there was recently that Twitter hack, right? Where like Elon Musk and Barack Obama got their Twitter accounts hacked. So is this something that blockchain could be leveraged and used for to prevent something like that or some of these TikTok issues?
It's interesting because if you really look into the Twitter thing, it seems like one of their user admins or somebody that had, super admin privileges got duped into giving those privileges, right? So there's a certain amount of like human error. Don't give your username and password to somebody, right?
Yeah.
But again, when you have systems in place, and if that was a decentralized identity management system, right? And as a company, people that had those kind of checks and balances, right? If they could be looking at, because like, where's the IP that the people that have these credentials are logging into? There's other ways to kind of like basically the person's identity helps verify that they are who they say are. Why is that? I live in Houston, Texas, right? So if somebody is logging onto my LinkedIn account and they're in Siberia, that's a little weird. And that continually happens to where I'm logging in, I'm in Houston, and then the next time it logs in at Siberia, then the system should know that doesn't compute. I can't be in two places at once, right? So having smart systems and having technology that can basically look for these type of exceptions and say, hey, here's someone that has a super admin access, and all of a sudden, Beijing, China, how is this guy logging in from there? That could have been caught and that could have been shut down. So I think the more you look at corporate systems and start decentralizing it, the better it is.
I hear what you're saying. And so do you have any additional thoughts about just social media security and how we can leverage technology to just make it more robust so we don't have some of these hacks, these data privacy issues that keep popping up?
Right. So like we talked about earlier, I mean, we're coming up with mature technology to solve these issues, right? So the IBM and Secure Key project that I talked about, they've been working on a pilot in Canada since 2017, right? And it's taken them a few years to kind of go through, work out the bugs, make this thing, production ready to go out and use. And now they're going to market with that. So, as we see these kind of proven systems coming out, it's just like any kind of technology evolution, right? Are you really going to stop and print out a letter and send a fax when you can literally go in and type in your email and send it to you? I can't remember the last time I sent a fax, right?
Right.
So, securing your identity and securing that information as these kind of use cases become best practices, then, the government's really good about telling these corporations what they should do. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of pass a law that says, hey, you have to use decentralized identity, and, not necessarily pass a law that use IBM's solution, but other companies will come up with solutions and this and that, or they have to create their own solution. So, just like you have HIPAA compliance, right, for medical data, right? You can't be storing people's medical data unless you comply to HIPAA. There's certain applications that have to apply to, in Europe, GDPR, which is the strictest security for user data privacy law on the planet. Our pandemic management solution is GDPR compliant. So, those are the kind of things that the government can do to basically protect us as citizens, to basically force tech companies to use the best practices. Like, you have to do this. And I think as blockchain matures and evolves and these solutions start coming to light, that pretty soon we won't have these issues. It's going to be very hard for hackers to get our identity. And then, pretty soon we'll be wearing wearables, right, where our identity's right on our wrist, boom, swipe in.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I think it'll be easier to go about things. But I really appreciate you sharing about this. In regards to social media, a lot of people like talking about number of likes, views, all these other topics that are much sexier, talking about engagement, right?
Sure.
We don't talk about security enough, but when it happens, it's a breach happens, it's severe. And so we need to have this conversation more often and make sure we have things in place. We don't get surprised when the former president of the United States starts tweeting about Bitcoin that he wants people to donate to him.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it was Bill Gates and Elon Musk, those are pretty high profile people that lots of people follow. And, some people fell for it and they sent the Bitcoin. And, the cool thing is they're tracking these people down and they're getting them. So, in a way, it just really does bring a spotlight to kind of some of these things that can happen. And, hey, how do we learn? Things go wrong, something bad happens. The world is a much safer place, unfortunately, after 9/11, right? I mean, think about all the things you have to go through to the airport just to get into there. And I can remember a time where I could get to the airport a half an hour before, right? Cruise right through, get on the plane, no problem. We don't live in that world anymore. So, I think it's unfortunate that these things happen, but we'll be better because of it, because, we'll have to think smarter and put in, technology to handle it.
Yeah, better prepared in the future.
For sure.
Daniel, as always, I really appreciate the time. I always learn something in speaking with you. So thank you so much for
Thanks, Michael. Till next time.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Quick Tech Talk with Michael Anderson and Daniel Sloan.